was something that was part of the criteria, and I think weighing the selection committee's mind as we evaluated the proposals.
Because I think it's very important, that a firm understand and not balloon a project. I think a lot of, there's a real tendency to take a project and want to make it
Turn it into a monument
bigger
or
and
something,
bigger,
yeah.
and that would be deadly.
But we were precluded from doing that because the EIR clearly defines limit on the size.
Well, yes, it does, but we made it an upper limit, and we don't want to go there.
And several of the firms that we've interviewed so far have gone through an exercise either graphically or using models of showing how they would be sensitive to the scale and the mass of the project in the location that's currently imagined.
I mean, I say we don't want to go there. I mean, that's up to the people of the town, but I don't believe the people of the town want to go there either. I mean, we want them to.
I think that's a fair statement to make.
Do we have any other questions or comments on this item?
Are we going to get more update from the members or not? The subcommittee?
There's not much to say. We haven't, we set someone on to interview, so.
We have one more interview this afternoon.
We did go on a tour. Some of us went on a tour of seeing projects that a few of the architects had done in this area.
How many have you, were on your short list?
5. We had 4 interviews yesterday and we have 1 meeting today. Good. Process is amicable and open and really very positive, and it's really exciting. We have some really interesting firms that have done some really high quality and interesting work, both here in the Bay Area or elsewhere in the country, and we're really fortunate to be there.
I think we've had all very good presentations so far.
I think the only concern that I would make is back when we originally chose Group 4, and I had the misunderstanding that they were going to be our architects. One of the things that impressed me about them was that their designs were not going to be in the theme of the PAC, Pacific Performing Arts Center at MA, that I really liked. I was personally really drawn to that, and I would be concerned if the committee were to choose an architect that was a little bit outside the box and a little bit non-receptive to the sensitivity of the residents, and that you make a recommendation to the council, and that the council say, this architect is a little bit too much flair, maybe. That's a concern that I have, and that the council would then say, we need to select another architect. That's just a concern I have.
I'll just say that it's very difficult particularly when reading some of these things, because I read a proposal by the people that did the place over at MA. And his whole design is based on the grove of oak trees that are there.
Well, I certainly wouldn't want that.
When people say that, and that's what you get, it's really, really interesting combination to sit and you just.
But we also have to remember, too, that what you might like might be very different than another person, and ultimately it's the client and the town that will like the project. And if architects have a history of providing successful projects to a community, then it would indicate that they will listen to that community, and there might be members of the community and the school who are pleased and excited about the building, while there are members of our community who are not. It's a highly subjective matter, but in talking to the principal at MA and some of the parents with children that attend the school, they're very, very pleased with the outcome. So ultimately the client defines what they want in the building.
Talking to Eric Hartwig, who's in my Rotary Club, about that project, which he was involved in, he said he originally started with an $8 to $10 million budget to match what MA did, Woodside did. And then said, well, maybe I can raise another $2 million, so we had $12 million. And then the bid came in at 25, and then the project ended up at 30. And to say, well, this is really what we had in mind, I'm not sure that that would be an accurate statement that the community was happy or had planned on getting, was expecting what they got.
But that was
And I-
part of the process, and that.
I just
Chris-
want to highlight that I just
Yeah.
would hate to end up with something like that in the park.
We're not planning to do that, and I think, I'd like Chris to talk about it, but certainly what is being articulated in all of the RFPs is that there are cost estimates that are provided every step of the way, and that the cost estimates are updated every time there's a meeting. So at the very, very early stage, the cost estimate and the budget is met.
I
And
didn't-
there can be provisions in a contract that if the architect's final drawings and construction documents, that the bids exceed what their estimate is by a percentage, then they have to re-engineer and redraw and redo the work at their cost. And they, professionals are really not interested in doing that. So there are vehicles to prevent us from running into that. And if you could.
I wanted to backpedal. My example of the cost overrun is not my concern. But saying that we have a grasp of the scope of what we want to get, I don't think, Menlo Atherton is a demonstration financially that it wasn't what they wanted. But I'm not sure the design was anything what they wanted either.
Yeah.
That's my concern, and my concern today is not that the building's gonna be out of budget, but that design I wouldn't wanna see something like that, and I would be concerned if an architect was gonna supply, if someone were to choose an architect of that style, and he would be presenting these kind of drawings to the council for approval, that's gonna really stop things. The council is much more conservative than this architect would be. That's my sense.
Yeah, as is the community. I mean,
As
we've
is the
seen
community.
the,
And
what
MA
they- where
is-
they put
I-
those dots.
I think in fact, when the architect history used that as an example of something that didn't fit in this environment. And I can't speak for anyone else on the selection committee, but I certainly know that we've articulated that something that fits with this community is really important. And I think we're all looking for someone who has the ability to listen and has the intelligence and creative faculties to be able to listen to the community when we get to the point of design something that the community will love. And so, hopefully, it's a difficult decision, and hopefully the committee, I think that the candidates are really good, but, I think that, there's a really good chance that there will be an excellent building, and that.
A really good chance is, it's gotta be a
Well, what
Well,
I-
you can't.
okay, I don't have to go any further. I just wanted,
We hear you.
okay, thanks.
Well, one thing that might allay Sandy's fears is the architect does bring preliminary drawings, right,
Well, so,
to somebody. And they
Let
are
me
okay.
give an example.
and I can.
The building
describe
at the end, at the
process.
building at the end of Watkins and El Camino. Everybody know that building? We looked at it. Does anybody recognize who the architect is for that? Does that building look similar to the one where the Kepler's building is?
Yes.
That's
Same
Bob
architect,
Peterson,
isn't it?
Bob
Isn't it?
Peterson.
Okay, now let's go downtown Redwood City. There's a glass steel building. It's a little bit north of the downtown section. The colors are blue and light white. As DES is the architect, they had their offices there. Has anybody been out to the end of Seaport Boulevard and that whole complex of offices there? Does anybody see a similarity in design? Same architect. The point being is that, yes, you can get an architect that'll be sensitive to our moods, but an architect's style is often very, very identifiable. And to say we're going to get a steel and glass guy and have him make a wooden plaster building isn't gonna happen. And I just want to be careful that I really like this guy because they've got this real flair, but they're gonna really tone it down. You're not gonna get the tone down from this architect. Architects have styles that is identifiable, and you need to be alert and aware to that. That's the big concern I have.
Well, the process in arriving at a concept design is very iterative. The process will not be one where we tell the architect to go off and design and come back and tell us when they're done, and then we'll react to it. They need to present early on, and that's why we've been so interested in having, as part of their interviews, them describe how they envision the process of getting community buy-in, getting buy-in from the client, from the users, and making sure that it's something that everybody supports or is headed in the right direction. And that's one of the processes, that's part of the process that we manage, is we're sensitive to making sure that we don't get too far down the road with design to where when somebody says they don't like something, we have to take a step back. And so the way to avoid that is by using that iterative process, presenting options, stopping and making sure that we're very clear. If there's something that the consensus is dislike, we point that out, and they don't come back until they have something that is ready to be presentable to the committee. So we won't let them get too far enough down the road with something that we don't like. And believe me, that happens. We've been brought on to previous projects where a client has a design done and they say, we don't like this. And what the thought that goes through my mind is, well, at what point do you tell the architect, time out, we don't like this, go back, but we have to be specific, we have to be ready to articulate specifics. If they respond best when we give specific feedback on what we don't like, scale, materials, massing, layout, and I'll make sure, we talked about this a little bit on Tuesday as we were doing our tours, that process is going to happen many times throughout the design, including when we get to details like cabinet layout and floor plans, and a lot of those little details. I like taking the users and stakeholders and bringing them in front of the drawings and having the architect walk them through every last choice that's made so that they understand what they're getting. Because once the documents evolve into concept design or into construction drawings, it's difficult to really visualize and take those 2D drawings and make them be 3D and really understand every part of the building. The renderings speak to the overall character of the building, and that's what I think most people will reference in terms of getting a sense of it, but there's a lot more to it, and I want to make sure that everybody really understands what they're getting, what they're buying, and that they like it. And that if we're at a point where we're being presented with options, that we tell them to go in the right direction so we come back with something that everybody likes and is going to find usable and pleasing in the site.
And the other really positive thing was, one of the questions we've asked the architects is looking at some of the more recently completed libraries over the last maybe 10 years, what would they view as doing differently given that the dynamics of what happens in a library is changing so rapidly. And they all had very cognizant and concise observations of what they would maybe do differently to solve some of the issues that have come up in recently completed libraries. It was good. It was very positive.
Sandy, I think that's a good approach, and could alleviate some of the problems.
We'll see.
I understand
My,
what we're talking about.
my anxiety to this is not whether the floor plan works or whether the cabinetry is right. My anxiety is, and day one when we were here, I said, I want this to be an award-winning library. The award I want it to win is if you drive by and you don't stop and say, wow, look at that building.
It's not right.
I don't want it standing out. I want you to drive by and not even notice that there's a building in there, that it fits in that well. The rest of it's incidental, and if you can show me a drawing that, I don't know whether the drawing is going to be the right description. I could give you a drawing of it, but in fact, you look at the drawing, you look at it and say, that's what I envision when I look at the drawing, and what I see actually is built is not the same thing. And I look again, I go, well, you've got more trees here that aren't there. You've got things that your imagination has put into this drawing that makes me like it, but doesn't work when it's being built because you didn't put it in, or I didn't realize when you were talking about a yellow that you were talking about a sunshine yellow rather than a subdued yellow. And so it's those things that I have an anxiety about, that an architect, when an architect wants to put a little bit of flair into something, they're gonna put flair into it. And I'm anxious about the idea that this thing's gonna be, I don't want it to be a head turner when you drive down
You
White.
want something that grows out of the site.
Yeah,
I'd like to back up this conversation a little bit,
Okay.
because what we have to remember too is that we are speaking like we're speaking for ourselves and maybe
the
speaking for the
community.
community.
I am speaking for
But-
myself.
But that, what will be really important as part of this process is a community driven workshop design process. And what was also clearly expressed is that we as a committee need to work very hard, and the select firm will work very hard in terms of using techniques and opportunities to engage as much participation as possible in this design process. And it will be, the voice of the community that will be weighing in.
And I think, kind of tying back to some of our earlier discussion about making sure that we have the right scope in the architect's overall contract, I think a project like this, where there's so much technology available now to really provide close to photorealistic renderings of a project like this, and for a building that's going to be of a smaller scale like this, I think it's not going to be terribly costly to get something that's close to a photorealistic rendering. We've done that on some of our past projects. Some people choose watercolors, some choose SketchUp models in Google. Maybe we want to look at having something that's very photorealistic, so that people really, especially for
Because
this
when you get
community.
community
And
input,
physical models.
Like myself,
think we
I
need physical
couldn't-
models.
I can't tell you what the building's gonna look like when I look at it on the sketch, on paper.
And that's exactly my point earlier, that a lot of times when you look at it in construction drawings, everybody always digs out the watercolor rendering, the SketchUp model. That's how they really picture the setting and the siting of the building. And there's a lot of options for making sure that we really get a true realistic viewpoint of what it's really going to look like.
And another part of that is an actual physical model. And that is
Yeah,
really
that's,
important,
okay.
especially when you have relationships with existing conditions.
But I think your points are well taken.
We can have a lot of community input on it, but, well, we can have a lot of community input on it, and it can turn out we don't like it. And I'm speaking collectively, I might speak for myself, my opinion, but, okay, we don't have to.
You know, with
I
any,
think my
with
point is-
with any building, it's the nature of the beast, is that some people will feel very, very pleased and other people might not be, but our aim is to please the community overall, and I think that that's possible with a well-managed process.
Based upon the comments we've heard so far, we know that if we put the medical center in there, anywhere, they're not going to like this. That would feel pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's got lots of stone on it.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Next item is update on school outreach and teacher meetings programs.
Sandy and I met with Principal Cito, and there's a young man, I'm trying to remember his name, I didn't bring my notes with me, who is a member of the student council and is interested in participating in this project. And we look forward to his participation. And there is also a member of the MA staff who works with literacy and programs for the students, and we will be looking forward to doing some outreach with the MA students, and the staff will help us with that, along with the library. So as we get closer to articulating some of the program elements in the library, we look forward to a joint effort with the library system and the MA staff.
Were there any others?
I also met with the principal about getting teacher library cards for all the teachers in the fall, and possibly collaborating on a program in the fall.
And also, Wally Sleep and I went to the PTO meeting at Ensenal, and the parents who attended that meeting were very excited about the idea of a new library, and they were very excited about the opportunity to have the library in the park. It's really close to the school, and they felt that there might be able to be a collaboration of having programs connected with school activities or after-school activities, and that the children could walk after school to the library. And so we will continue that conversation in the fall. That's it. That's the update I have. Anybody else have an update? Any public comments on this item? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item.
Summer meeting schedule.
All right, summer reading schedule.
We're gonna need one for this, to review this draft that he has for community.
I would also like us, I'd like to propose that we have a special meeting to discuss the results of the architect selection. I think it would be good for this committee to meet maybe next week, if that's possible.
Before it goes to the council.
Yes, I do think it, because we will be making a recommendation and we need to do that. So the question is whether or not we can hold a special meeting. We need some number of days notice for the special meeting. It's already Thursday, so the earliest we could have the meeting would be Friday next week, or perhaps we do it the week after.
The requirement is less for special meetings, so I think it's 48 hours.
But we do want to give.
Next Thursday.
Okay.
I'll be away next Thursday.
Okay, so next Thursday does not work.
Do you have any availability next week? Subsequent week?
Date?
Anytime.
Tuesday the 18th?
Nice.
I can't do it, I will be over there.
Wednesday,
The 20th.
maybe in the afternoon?
If we do Wednesday, how about next week? 6
Next-
days.
I'll be away the portion of next week, so maybe the following week's available, that'd be great.
Wednesday afternoon, since the council meeting's at noon. Wednesday the 20th.
What time?
3.
Pretty good.
Here?
I will follow up on if this emergency goes and stuff. And the only item on the agenda will be the architect selection, correct?
Pardon me?
The only item on the agenda will be architect.
And then the next item is our July meeting. And the question is, would we like to have a meeting in the last week of June, or, I think July 4th is a Thursday, is that correct?
Yeah, it's a Wednesday, it looks
It's
like.
a Wednesday.
Oh, so I guess we could have
We could have a meeting on the 5th.
if people don't work.
I won't be there.
I won't do it.
Joan is gone from June 28th to July 7th.
I'm out of town the following week, but you can have a meeting without.
Second week in July, July 12th, the Thursday.
I won't be here.
Um,
What about the last week of June?
You pose the note in July.
I asked him if it was slightly before the 4th, it would be a problem. He said no.
So the fourth Thursday of the month would be the 28th
Of June.
of June.
June.
Works for me.
When is Joe in town?
29th.
The 28th.
Or the 28th. But we have a majority of the members.
As long as
that can
everyone
attend.
else can come, that's fine. So at 10 a.m.
Yes. And then the next meeting would be the first Thursday of August, which would be,
I might have decided to push that.
pardon me?
Or this would replace.
The June 28th meeting replaces the July meeting.
So no regular meeting in July, and then our next meeting will be August 2nd, not August 1st, as it's incorrectly noted.
Okay,
August 2nd.
August 2nd. We're in agreement? Terrific.
Next item, communication options, discuss best methods of communication for the project.
So, there are a number of issues and things coming up on the project. The final EIR, the entitlement process, and I think there are still questions and concerns that the community has. We have a lot of information on the town's website, but a couple of people have observed that there's really a lot of very technical information. And the question is whether or not we'd like to glean some of the information that's on our website and put it in a summarized format that is maybe more more user-friendly, and that if people are interested in more details, that we can refer them to other parts of the website or documents that we have. And
When we went,
and I don't know, Corinne can help me with this one, is that when we went through the public workshop process most recently, we did not spend monies on big fancy boards and that kind of thing. And the idea is that we might be able to use some of those monies for other, communication methods and providing the community information on the project.
I think it's a great idea to do a short summary of what's been happening lately in a positive tone, for people to just be able to go to the website and read through it, and if they're interested, as you say, link on to more information.
And also know what's coming forward, because we will be looking to having more community workshops that will be scheduled, I think sometime in the fall. And I think that the sooner we're able to communicate that, and it's not a question that's going to happen in the next week or so, but I think as a committee, we need to have a discussion and understand what the communication strategies are going to be and how we might be able to update our website to augment providing the community information. And so it's really just a conversation to start the process.
when you say update the public, are you saying that we have a project manager, what the project manager is doing, where we stand on the selection of architect process, what's going to be happening with zoning and general plan, that there are going to be more community meetings, that kind of thing?
Perhaps we could do something like, the town could start putting up, like on a month-to-month basis, June 2012, and it's just like a project update section. Each month, there's kind of a little recap of key activities that happened in that month, so people feel informed, and that's continually updated.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, in future.
And future.
Is anything happening with regard to the selection of the landscape architect?
The landscape architect will be part of the, all the design disciplines are being selected as part of the architect selection process. So each of the architects has all the various sub-consultants for landscape, civil, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, sustainability, and so forth.
But that's all part of the architect?
It's all under the same umbrella, yes.
So I think in describing this, I think you have two components. Or in my mind, I heard two components. One is exactly what was mentioned about the summary of the month and then coming things. The other was to go through all the technical data that's currently on the website and summarize it Is that another objective of this discussion, or?
Yes,
Because
it
that's
is.
a very big project.
It is a big project.
Knowing what's on there.
I think it's helpful, it would be helpful summarizing the information. I guess my reservation is who is going to, present a digested version, because it might seem to some people fairly or unfairly that how the information has been condensed is biased and might, not have the intended helpful effect.
I would think that anyone who would go beyond just reading the update, that would want to see details, wouldn't necessarily want to see a summary of those details, would want to see the facts.
It's just not that easy to negotiate.
No,
For
I know.
example, if people have questions as to whether or not this project is funded or how it's funded, they have to find it in the report that we made to council, and it's not necessarily that obvious.
Do we have the sheet, the fact sheets that were circulated to the community posted?
Oh, I don't know if they're posted.
I think it is, but it's not easy to find. There are so many documents that some of the information is buried, and really all I'm suggesting is maybe there's a better way to reorganize it so that you can organize it in a way as for information on, the library funding, and
That's
have
an index.
have a better index maybe.
Have an index page.
Well, isn't there a new search component to the town website? Or no, was I imagining, isn't there like a Google search to the town website?
That'd be nice.
I don't think that they've done much of anything to the town
'Cause I know-
website. We've been talking about.
Because I think if you did that, then you could pull this up.
I don't see a search option on the town website. We've been talking about all kinds of IT
Yeah.
renovation to the town website, but I'm not aware of it. But certainly that question and answer sheet should be there somewhere, and pretty obvious, I would hope, on the website.
Denise, I think Kathy, to me, just said the magic words. You need what's usually called the FAQs, frequently asked questions, and be able to get to that quickly, and it'll have maybe 20. I mean, someone mentioned that the cost and stuff like this, and just have 2 or 3 sentences. Because that's where there's so much misunderstanding in the community.
That's what we printed out.
Yes.
Yes, but
If
it's
you've
not.
already done it, I mean, I don't know if
We've
it's on the
done it,
website.
but it's
Really,
So is the idea that each of the questions be listed on the page, and then you could just
Then
scan
you
questions?
click on those and you
Yeah.
get to that.
Right.
Yeah, that should
Exactly.
be
I think that's a
one of
good
the-
idea.
And to the extent that there are new questions that arise, we should update it and
That's
add
right.
new questions.
That's
Because I think everyone's right, most everybody's going to have a lot of the same questions, right? What's the status of the project? Who's the project team? Who's the architect? What's the schedule? What's the budget? Where's the money coming from? Those are a lot of those are probably the top 5 questions right there.
The other thought I had, and I don't know whether it was part of your original duties or not, Chris, but it strikes me of this whole thing, you are probably best placed to every month or every 2 weeks to write the
Certainly.
short summary of what
I
what you guys-
expect to be doing that.
That.
And I think figuring out the best medium for disseminating that is a good discussion to have, but providing that content is absolutely something we'll be doing.
Well, I will sign up to be sure that the FAQ that we've already written and mailed to the community is up there.
Is there a contact for, who manages the steering committee website right now? That's one thing I don't know.
The town does,
The
so
town
it
does,
was,
okay.
Teresa has been delegating it.
Okay.
I think we should.
So we could, I can sit, maybe some members of the committee offline can sit down with Teresa and talk about getting a good format together based on whoever's doing the town website updates, and we can provide content very easily.
Sounds good. And to make it a little bit easier for.
And then set a goal of, by the last day of the month, or by, a few days prior to the last day of the month, having that content ready to upload.
And then I think you can add some new questions, like what's been happening recently, and new project managers have been selected. What does the project manager do? And you can answer that question. I'm the new project manager, this is what I do. And what's happening with the architect? You can say what's happening with the architect. what is going to, what's going to happen with the design.
Because by the end of this month, there'll be, some milestone information to report to everyone, so.
So, do we, would it make sense to have a small subcommittee work with you on
Sure,
that?
absolutely. The communication subcommittee, yeah. Mhm.
Do I have other volunteers? Great.
Ginny is our computer guru.
I'll
Okay.
share some examples of project updates that I think are well done.
Okay.
Thank you. Perfect. I think that just having a couple of people makes it effective.
And whenever you hear a question that the community asks, or something that's being misrepresented that needs clarification, I would add a question, and I would write up an explanation.
And what's helpful is that if, all of us get put in the position occasionally of being approached by somebody that wants to know information about the project, we're always happy to answer questions as best we can, but it gives us something to refer people to that's consistent and current.
Yeah, we can just send an email to the communication committee and say, I've received this question, or I'm hearing that people don't understand this, or this is being miscommunicated. I think it needs clarification on the website.
Good. Any public comments on this item?
Like I asked you about landscaping, one of the things I heard
Mhm.
just the other day was that we're hiring people to do landscaping. That's why I asked you.
So in other words, somebody mentioned to you, I heard that.
Yes, and that apparently isn't exactly true. What we're doing is we're going through the architect selection
Right.
process and
I